Hey, what's going on guys? Kevin the Tech Ninja here. In today's video, I'm gonna give you quick impressions of the iMac. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Nowadays, nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's icy. I got wifey on bling and she icy.
The iMac was purchased by me to replace my setup that I've been using for more than 2 years. I actually did a setup video not too long ago talking about that setup. If you want to know more about that video and how I had it before with my 16-inch MacBook Pro, hit the link down below to check that video out. Now, first impressions was during the unboxing. The box was a little bit confusing to open correctly, but once I figured that out by just flipping it around, I was able to get into it just fine. Now, inside the box, you have all the color matching accessories, like what you expect from Apple. You have stickers and paperwork and all the stuff that you get when you buy a new computer. The iMac itself is pretty light to pick up. I was really surprised that when I picked it up out of the box, it was just very easy. And I'm not complaining saying that's a bad thing. I was just surprised by the weight. Setting up the iMac was pretty simple since it's just one main component. Then you have the keyboard and the mouse. Everything is very thin, small, and minimal from the Magic Mouse to the keyboard. I gotta be honest, I've never been a fan of Magic Mice, and this one was the same thing. It's just too slippery, I'm just not a big fan of it. So the power cable that plugs into the iMac just kind of pops on with, feels like a magnet. It just pops in there. It really feels cool. It's just a nice feeling to kind of plug it in there. Then you have the power brick, which has Ethernet attached to it. And also it's a long enough power cord allowing you to stash it away so you can have a really clean setup. There's also a hole in the stand that allows you to run cords through it cleanly. So once again, setting up the iMac, you just have a really clean setup and you do a pretty good job at hiding cables. Overall, I don't think this computer looks good. It looks clean, but the white frame in front is just an eyesore to me. What do you guys think about my setup with it? Do you think it looks good? I really wish there was an option for a black frame, but obviously that would double their SKU, which I don't think Apple wants to do. I will give them credit for the colors and the color shifting that it does under lights. I do like the colors overall. I just wish the front was black. Okay, enough with the visual stuff and unboxing. Let's get into the computer and talk about the tests that I ran these last 2 days and see how it's been performing for me thus far. The very first thing I did, and something that I've never done before, I ran a migration wizard to move my files from my MacBook Pro to my iMac because I'm still working on some projects and I wanted to move those over right away. And it took around an hour and some change to copy over. I'm not sure if that's fast or slow since this is my first time using the tool. After it completed, all my files were on my desktop and apps were there, everything looked good. But when I started to launch applications, I ran into some permission errors and I spent around 45 minutes of Googling ways to fix it. I had to run permission fixes on my whole computer and whatever. It's not important, but sharing my experience. So let's talk about the performance with the M1 chip. It's the same that we've seen on laptops, and that's not a bad thing at all. Most tasks are instant or as close to as possible, and the iMac just wakes up instantly when you move the mouse, and it's silent under some pretty heavy loads like rendering a video. The iMac also has built-in speakers. Although I most likely won't use the built-in speakers, I will say they do sound pretty good. They have some pretty good bass response and the highs are a little bit drawn back so you don't have that clashing sound that you get with some speakers, and I think they're solid. At times they do sound a bit hollow, that they really sound narrow, but overall I think they're really good. So if you're using applications that are optimized for M1 versus applications that are running in Rosetta, which is like an emulation mode, there's gonna be a difference. So Final Cut on M1 runs butter. I mean, I'm editing 4K footage like it's no tomorrow. It's really good. But when I switch over to Adobe, which is running in Rosetta, it's performing very well like it's a fast computer, but you don't have the smoothness like you do with M1. So there's still some M1 software out there that needs to be optimized for it to work with M1, but overall, you could still use any applications that you've had before. The one caveat gonna be plugins. There's still several plugins that I can't use on this computer yet, and I'm sort of just missing out. I love Touch ID on the keyboard. I just tap it and it unlocks, it gets me in. No complaints at all. I just don't like the keyboard. In my opinion, it's just not good. So I put the keyboard away and I'm using my personal keyboard. So I'm pulling back expectations. I know this computer is not made for professionals, but it can handle a workload of a professional. I would have loved to see a larger version of this. Maybe the Pro will be larger, but 24 inches is very small, and I wonder how my eyes would adjust over time. That's one thing I really am thinking about. Anyways, guys, those are my last few days with the iMac. Good performance, bad peripherals, and ugly design. I'm Kevin.